Grand Rising. Happy Wednesday. I pray everybody's having a positive, productive start to your day today. If not, I pray that your angels, ancestors, spirit guides, and of course, the Most High help you with that today. I also pray that He clothes us in His armor from head to toe, that He strengthens our discernment and guides our steps as we go throughout this day. That being said, we're going to start out with a morning mantra. I've got a hand pan playing in the background. The journey unfolds. 1111 hertz. Yesterday, our mantras were about doing our best and practicing patience. Something that I think a lot of us struggle with is being patient. Today is Wednesday, June 11th, 2025. It is 7:07 a.m. real time. It's been a nice, cool morning so far. I finally got my sleep routine back on track, so here we are, back into the swing of things, right? All right, our morning mantra. I face the day knowing nothing bad can come from telling the truth. Wow, that very much lines up with the affirmation that we got from yesterday. Truth. I face the day knowing nothing bad can happen from telling the truth. So not only being honest with yourself, but being honest with the people around you, the people in your life. You know, sometimes, yes, the truth hurts, but honesty is always the best policy. All right, now we'll get a grief affirmation. Yesterday, our affirmation reminded us that it's okay to take the time that we need to grieve. Grief is a natural process. We all grieve in different ways, on different levels. In the psychology world, there are 7 stages to grief. Hello, Grand Rising. Happy Wednesday. I hope you're having a positive, productive start to your day today. All right, grief affirmation. It's okay if I feel everything at once, nothing at all, or even something in between. Regardless of what I am feeling or how confusing it seems, I am in exactly the right place on my grief journey. Thank you. All right, so, no matter what stage of your journey you're on, grief in general is a roller coaster ride. A lot of times, we think we're better, we think we're over it, and then something comes along and triggers us and, sends us back onto that roller coaster, that healing journey. All right, now we'll get a chakra wisdom affirmation. Yesterday, we got the heart chakra, unconditional love. Showing unconditional love not only to yourself, but to the people around you. Remembering that everybody's dealing with something. Just because you can't see behind their door doesn't mean that they're not grieving or processing or struggling in some way. So remember to walk in love. Unconditional love for yourself is very important. Thank you for removing that message. I don't do tarot here, so stick around and maybe you'll get some advice or some encouragement, motivation for the day. All right, so we'll get our chakra affirmation for the day, and then we'll light our incense. That's too many, but we'll acknowledge them. You got 2 from the sacral chakra and 1 from the crown chakra. One with all. I'm a mentor, not a rescuer. And sensuality. It's not up to us to rescue people. All we can do is, encourage them, motivate them, share with them the knowledge that we have, and hope that it helps them along their journey. Communication, throat chakra. Communication, proper communication is important. That goes along with our daily mantra. I face the day knowing nothing bad can happen from telling the truth, having honest communication. I think the incense for the throat chakra, yes, is patchouli. There's a lot of people that don't like the smell of patchouli. I've always enjoyed it. I use the essential oil on a regular basis, but there's a lot of people that don't like it. Throat chakra represented by the color blue, located in between your collarbones at the base of your throat. Being honest not only with yourself, but with the people around you. Embracing the truth, even though it may not be what we want to hear, it's what we need to hear. Sometimes for a lot of people, it's easy to, kind of stay in denial. We get comfortable in our confusion. A lot of people get comfortable in their illusions of what they think the truth is. All right, I communicate openly and honestly to express my thoughts and feelings clearly. I share my inner knowledge freely with integrity and without fear. My aim is to be fully understood by others. I'm open to giving and receiving praise and will be careful not to talk excessively and make it all about me. I create space in my conversations for others to communicate with me. I inquire about others' thoughts and feelings, as listening to their truth can be uplifting. Good. Happy Wednesday. We talk about it here a lot. Just being that listening ear, being that support, being that encouragement sometimes that people need. A lot of times when people are struggling, when they're grieving, they really just need somebody to listen. They need somebody to understand, to be supportive. You really don't even need to give any kind of advice. Just authentically be there to support them, encourage them, understand them, empathize with them. So many people nowadays feel alone in the world. They feel like they don't have anybody to talk to. They don't have somebody that they can trust. But going back to our morning mantra, I face the day knowing nothing bad can come from telling the truth. Sometimes the truth hurts, but a lot of times it's what we need to hear. All right. Now we'll get an affirmation from the Wild Offering Oracle. Yesterday we got truth, which that very much lines up with the mantra for today. Sometimes the truth hurts. Sometimes we know what the truth is. We just don't want to accept that truth. And that's why we need somebody to come in and kind of open our eyes to allow us to see the truth. If we walk around in denial, not accepting the truth, then it just delays our healing journey. No matter what we're healing from, whether it's heartbreak, loss of a loved one, loss of a friend, loss of a community, just dysfunction in a community. Sometimes speaking the truth can really put ripples in the water. But, if you're around people or in certain situations where, you can't speak your truth, then that's not really where you need to be. It's important for us to be able to be our honest, authentic selves and be accepted for that. And love and mistakes, I think I flipped those over myself, so we're not going to take those, but we actually got those just the other day, both of those cards, and they came out together the last time. So loving yourself despite your mistakes. knowing that you're still worthy, even though we make mistakes. We all make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. Perfection is an illusion. Look at that. Gratitude, relationship. The attitude of gratitude is always the best policy. You know, 11:11 on the timer when I looked. Find just one thing that you feel grateful for right now and let that gratitude pour through your body. It's a healing balm like the warmth of the sun. Being grateful for, you know, all the small things in our lives that a lot of times we take for granted. Being grateful for the people that come into our lives that, you know, either help us communicate or help us heal or even speak some truth that maybe we needed to hear. All right, and then relationship. I call in the infinite power of love to take over this union in every way. May it now fully belong to the divine. Let it unfold in the perfect way for each of us. I needn't fear letting go of control. My needs are always abundantly met. These affirmations and the chakra affirmations, you can find, most of them are posted on my shorts section to where, you know, you can go there and screenshot it so that you can say the affirmations for yourself. You know, positive affirmations a lot of times can help us keep a positive frame of mind throughout the day. You know, the way we think very much affects the way we present ourselves in the world. Having the attitude of gratitude, just having that positive mindset, it can very much affect your day and affect the day of the people that you're interacting with. You know, if you're walking through your day with negativity, that can very easily rub off on the people that you're around. And I don't know about anybody else, but I don't like having that effect on other people. It's important for me to, you know, be positive. Maybe there's some negative truths that we, you know, that we have to accept, but that doesn't mean that we have to walk around being ungrateful for the many blessings that we have. The fact that we just woke up this morning is a blessing in itself. We have so much to be grateful for, so many little things to be grateful for, and a lot of times we tend to forget that. All right, now we're going to get an affirmation from the Affirmators deck. Self-help without all the self-helpiness. Yesterday we got teachers and we're all students. You know, every person that you are throughout your life can either teach you something or you can teach them something. We all have knowledge to share. Knowledge is power. You know, and sometimes, going back to the morning mantra, sometimes that knowledge is just truth that needs to be spoken. You know, sometimes when we're caught up, especially in some kind of grief, we allow our emotions to distract us from what the truth really is. You know, sometimes we don't want to acknowledge that truth because it causes pain. And that's okay. You know, sometimes the truth hurts. But don't let that pain stop you from accepting that truth and, you know, using that truth as an opportunity to grow, to learn, to heal. It's not always easy, especially if that truth is something about ourselves that, you know, we need to change. So a lot of times we can get stuck in that phase of denial. Inspiration. This picture shows like a little man inside the head. You know, I'm seeing that like as your intuition, your inner voice. There's a voice of inspiration within me. Right now, it's only a whisper. The more I listen, the louder it will get. Soon it will be a flawless speech. Voiced by James Earl Jones through a megaphone with lots of applause. James Earl Jones is a great narrator. He has a good voice, a lot like Morgan Freeman. I don't know why, but that's making me think of the movie Sandlot. James Earl Jones has a small role in that movie. That's a kid's movie from a long time ago. But listening to your inner voice, knowing that the more that you listen to it, the easier it will get to listen to it. Listening to your intuition, listening to your gut. Don't ignore that voice when it's trying to get your attention. A lot of times when we do ignore that voice, we regret it in the long run. We look back on the situation like, dang, I should have listened to my gut. And hopefully when we experience those moments, it will teach us to embrace that inner voice. All right. Now we'll get our educational moment for the day with our state card. Yesterday we got Colorado, the Centennial State. Hello. It's good to see you. Happy Wednesday. I hope you're having a positive, productive day so far today. Thank you for stopping by. All right, so speaking our truth, understanding that grief is a process, communication, honest, authentic, trustworthy communication, not only with ourselves, but with the people around us. Walking around with the attitude of gratitude, embracing the relationships that come in, knowing that they're either there to teach us something or we're there to teach them something. Or, sometimes people just come into our lives to inspire us to know our truth or to embrace our truth. Sometimes they're there just to, encourage us to heal, to help us heal, to love us, with the relationship affirmation, loving us through that grief, being grateful for the people that come into our lives that offer that. A lot of times we take those people for granted. We have a tendency to not appreciate the role that they were playing until they're gone. Wisconsin. All right. I actually lived in Wisconsin for a little while when I was younger. All right. The capital of Wisconsin is Madison. It's known as the Badger State. Wisconsin gained its statehood in May 29th of 1848. The state bird is the robin. The state flower is the wood violet. And the motto is forward. Forward ho, forward march, making progress. Nice. All right, quick facts. Malted milk was invented by William and James Horlick and Racine in 1873. Wisconsin Dells is noted for its water theme parks. I have actually been there. I was really young, but I have been there. Wisconsin leads the nation in cheese production. I think when most people think of Wisconsin, that's what they think about is the cheese. Cheese curds. That makes me think of Max Velocity, the weather guy that I watch here on YouTube. If you don't know who he is, go check him out. He provides great weather coverage for the whole United States. But his cat's name is Cheese Curd. I don't know if he used to live in Wisconsin and maybe that's why he named his cat that. But nonetheless, I think when most people think of Wisconsin, they think of cheese. All right, now we'll get a card from the Namaste Stress Less deck. Yesterday, we got Slow Down. It referenced the story of the tortoise and the hare. Knowing that life is not a race, it's not a competition. We're all here to help each other, to share with each other, to embrace the journey. And a lot of times when we try to rush the process, whatever process that is, I think of cheese when I think of him. Yeah, I think that's what most people think of when they think of Wisconsin. There's a lot of dairy farms in Wisconsin as well. When I lived there as a kid, we actually lived on a dairy farm. So, but knowing that no matter what process you're going through, healing from some kind of grief, getting used to listening and trusting your intuition, seeking inspiration from the world. If we try to rush that process, a lot of times we end up slipping up and making mistakes, and end up having to go back and redo it. That was called 70s Show. Yeah. The 70s Show was set in Wisconsin. Yeah, I loved that show. Or I should say I enjoyed that show. But there's been a lot of, with all the, going back to the truth that we were talking about, a lot of truths have been exposed over the last couple years. Danny Masterson, the guy that played Hyde, he's actually in jail now for sexual misconduct. We'll just leave it at that. We won't go into detail. Let it out. That came out of there quick. All right, so from the Namaste deck, we got Let It Out. Breathe in everything good. Breathe out everything negative. With every breath out, breathe out something unnecessary. Negative thoughts, emotions, memories, whatever is weighing you down. Let it out through your breath. Do this for 8 minutes. Breathing in general calms the body down and relaxes the mind. Intentionally letting go of negativity with every breath will allow you to feel lighter and even more powerful. So letting out that negative emotions. I refer to it as practicing the pause. When you start getting those feelings of being overwhelmed, or you feel like you're carrying around some negativity that you need to let go of, just step out of whatever current energy you're in and just focus on your breathing. It's important to remember to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. It's been scientifically proven that there is a difference in the biology of how it affects your body when you breathe that way. Basically kind of like a form of meditation. A lot of people, when you say meditation, they associate, some kind of negativity with meditation. But in reality, it's just about recentering yourself, releasing whatever those negative thoughts, feelings that we're dealing with. And sometimes it's easier said than done, but the more you do it, the more you practice that, the better that you'll get. All right, now we'll pull from the angel numbers and the celestial insights. Yesterday, our angel numbers were 6464, 1515, and 2121. Intuition, self-care, and energetic balance. We did get the inspiration this morning, which speaks about listening to your intuition. Listening to that gut feeling when we get it. If you get a weird feeling when you're around somebody, if they throw your energy off, that's your body trying to tell you something. And actually, I have a really good example about that. I was outside with my neighbor yesterday, and he has a Husky Great Pyrenees mix. She's beautiful, by the way. But one of the other neighbors, a guy, came outside and she started acting really weird. Like I had never, which I haven't known them for that long because I haven't lived here very long, but I had never seen her act that way before. Like she was kind of like cowering down and really standoffish from him. And he kept trying and trying to get closer and closer to her until she finally like snapped at him, like barked at him and bit at him, like giving him a warning. And the guy has, from day one, has always given me really weird vibes. Like he always tries to talk to me and I'm just like, I gotta go. I don't really want to talk to him. But after he walked away, the guy that owns her said, I don't know why she's being that way, da 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 da. And I looked at him, I said, you know, you need to listen to her. My boy dog is the same way. Like, he's like my backup system, going back to that inspiration, listening to that inner voice. A lot of times, because I'm just, you know, I try to be a nice person. I don't like to necessarily be mean to people. So a lot of times, you know, when I get that little niggle, that little internal voice talking to me, I have a tendency to ignore it because I don't want to be mean. Well, my boy dog doesn't let me do that. If somebody is putting that energy off, he doesn't tolerate it. And so he kind of helps me to listen to that inner voice. But nonetheless, dogs have that sixth sense, you know, and a lot of us as humans, we have it too, but we're not as in touch with it. And even when we are, we have a tendency to ignore it until it's too late, like I said. And then we go back and we're like, dang, I wish I would have listened to my gut, you know, because a lot of times it can, you know, it can get us in trouble when we don't listen to that voice. So it's really important to listen to that voice when you hear it. All right, angel numbers. Of course it fell on the floor. 17, self-belief. 2244. Oh, wow, 2 of them fell on the floor. 938 and 77. We don't normally take that many, but we'll take them today. 2244, acceptance. 17, self-belief, believing in yourself, believing in your truth, trusting your energy when your body's trying to tell you something. Let me turn my fan on real quick. Okay. 77, awakening, and 938, keep going. All right, 17, self-belief. Self-belief, confidence, hope, change, courage, leap, and path forward. You may feel stuck or fearful, perhaps even in despair, thinking there's no way forward. This card reassures you that the path starts with you. You are ready for a life-changing leap forward. What fears or doubts are holding you back, and how can you overcome them to take a leap toward positive change? Identify one area where you feel stuck and take a small but significant step forward, overcoming this obstacle. Believe in your ability to create the change that you desire. So that very much lines up with the keep going. You know, having faith in yourself, having faith in your abilities, you know, even though it may be difficult, even though, you know, we sometimes struggle with trusting our intuition, with trusting that we're making the right choice. The more we do it, the more comfortable we get in it, and the easier it gets for us to do that the next time. You know, practice, practice, practice. All right, 938, keep going. Perseverance, strength, guidance, resilience, success, and endurance. The angels are proud of your resilience and efforts. They are sending you strength and guiding you through challenges towards success and prosperity. In what areas of your life do you need to keep pushing forward? How can you remind yourself of the progress and stay motivated? Celebrate your small victories and progress. Take one step at a time towards your goals and remind yourself that you are supported and capable of overcoming obstacles. We talk about it here a lot, you know, setting those small goals to accomplish a bigger goal. It came up the other day and we talked about it. You know, when you try to accomplish too much at one time, when you set a really big goal that requires you to make a lot of changes, sometimes if we try to do too much too fast, it can be overwhelming and we end up giving up because we're trying to do too much at one time. So setting those smaller goals to help you accomplish the bigger goals so that you don't get overwhelmed. So you're instead of just taking one giant leap forward, you know, you take little baby steps. All right, 2244, acceptance. Surrender, let go, peace, clarity, adaptability, and moving forward. Embrace what you cannot change and let go of past grievances. Focus on what you can control moving forward to realign yourself with your goals and purpose. What aspects of your life are you struggling to accept? How can you focus on what you can control and move forward? So, going back to our morning mantra, talking about speaking the truth, being honest with yourself about what you can change and what you can't change. Focus, accept and let go of what you can't change, and then focus on what you can change. Identify one situation you've been resisting or dwelling on, and choose one small step to take towards acceptance and positive change. So, yeah, baby steps. Don't let yourself feel like you have to do it all at once. When we do that, we get overwhelmed and then we end up giving up. And then, the whole 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. That's not what we want. I mean, yes, we can learn from those situations if we're honest with ourselves, but still, it'd be better just to start off with taking baby steps in the first place. All right, 77, awakening. Enlightenment, breakthroughs, success, epiphanies, spiritual growth, and transformation. You are undergoing a profound spiritual awakening that will lead you toward a path of success, epiphanies, and breakthroughs in all aspects of your life. That's kind of going back to that inspiration, that inner voice, taking the time to listen to that voice. And a lot of times that can really offer up like some different perspectives that could really change the trajectory of where we're headed. In what areas of your life are you experiencing spiritual growth? And how can you harness this awakening to achieve success and breakthroughs? Reflect on recent insights or revelations you've had, and consider how you can apply these to create positive changes and breakthroughs in your life. So not only listening to that inner voice, but being aware of, different signs and synchronicities, that may offer some different perspectives, some solutions, maybe something going back to the relationships and, the people that come into our lives. Sometimes those people are there to help us have a breakthrough, to offer us a different perspective. And a lot of times that's all it takes. It's just having a different perspective about the situation. For most people, when we're on the outside looking in, we can look at the situation from a non-emotional aspect. So when you're able to do that, whether it's your own situation or somebody else's situation, it can offer a different perspective. It can offer solutions that maybe that person wasn't able to see because they were so, I don't want to say held prisoner, but they're so consumed by the emotion of it all. And then vice versa. You can be that for somebody else. And sometimes that's all people need. Going back to our throat chakra affirmation, the communication, and our daily mantra, speaking the truth, sometimes that's what people need, especially if they're grieving in some way. When we're in that state of grief, we're very emotional. We're looking at things from an emotional aspect. So sometimes, we need that person to come in and offer a different perspective, offer a different point of view to help us break out of that cycle. We all need that from time to time. Sometimes it can be hard for us to admit that we need that, but we do. All right, now we'll pull from the Celestial Insights. Yesterday we got confusion, trust and observe, healing, and spirit. So reviewing the angel numbers 17, 938, 2244, and 77. Self-belief, keep going, acceptance, and awakening. Believing in yourself, accepting the truth, even though it may not be what we want to hear, being honest with ourselves, That will help us awaken a little bit at a time. You know, the more we do that, the more we get that inspiration, that courage to keep going. You know, accepting that there are people, places, things, situations, even thought patterns that we need to let go of so that we can continue on the journey. That is part of the grief process. You know, and grief comes in all different, in multiple different ways. You know, sometimes we're grieving for the loss of a loved one, the loss of a friendship, you know, the loss of a job, a health issue. You know, grief comes in all different forms. It's not up to us to judge people for what is causing their grief. But, you know, a lot of times we can be that person that helps them wake up, you know, to the fact that they may be stuck in that cycle, to encourage people to keep going. You know, in my personal opinion, that's what we're here to do. We should want to help people. Vice versa. You know, sometimes we need people to come in and help us, whether it's spiritually, physically, emotionally, mentally. You know, sometimes we need help breaking out of that box. Look at that barrier maze as I'm speaking about a box. Barrier maze. Then we got marriage on the bottom of the deck. And admiration on the top of the deck. You know, when you speak of marriage, just know that that doesn't necessarily mean a literal marriage. It could just be like the blending. You know, working as a team. All right, barrier maze. Confusion may feel overwhelming, but remember that every maze has an exit. You might be struggling with difficult problems, but shifting your perspective could reveal the solution. Bam. You know, looking at things from a different perspective, acknowledging that sometimes, you know, people come into our lives to help us view things from a different perspective. All right, marriage is a blend of love, trust, and responsibility. Are you considering a deeper commitment? Ensure you are ready for the responsibilities and challenges that come with that. So, you know, just remembering what I said about that doesn't necessarily mean a literal marriage. You know, that could be just becoming a part of a team, you know, working with somebody. You know, be careful the commitments that you agree to, what you sign up for. You know, don't take on too much at one time. And also, you know, if you're considering working with somebody, teaming up with somebody, make sure that you and that person are on the same page. You know, make sure that person isn't going to come in either with hidden motives or, you know, with a lack of commitment. Make sure that that's something that you really want to commit to, whether that's a job, an extracurricular project, you know, whatever it is. All right, and then admiration. You are worthy of admiration and respect. Have you been downplaying your value? Accept compliments and be proud of your achievements. You deserve recognition. You know, a lot of us struggle with taking compliments, either because we're just not used to getting them, or, you know, because we've had so many people throughout our lives blow smoke up our butts that, you know, we don't believe them when people give them. But that very much lines up with the self-belief, angel number 17. You know, have confidence in yourself. You know, even if you're not receiving compliments from other people, you know, compliment yourself. Be proud of the things that you've accomplished. Be proud of the things that you've overcome. You know, a lot of times we don't do that enough. We're so focused on the goal, the destination, the healing, that we don't take the time to stop and be proud of ourselves for the things that we've overcome, being proud of ourselves for how far we've made it. So it's important to do that. Even if you don't receive that from other people, you know, love yourself enough to be proud of those things, being proud of the growth, being proud of the healing, you know, being proud of going back to acceptance, the angel number 2244, accepting changes that need to be made, being proud of being able to accept your truth, surrendering to a situation, being able to let go. A lot of times when we finally accept our truth, whatever that is, in whatever situation we're referring to, it's hard to let go, especially of people and thought patterns. So when you finally accept that and you get clarity on whatever situation that is, being proud of yourself that you were able to walk away, that you were able to let go, that you were able to grow and surrender and heal. Those are major accomplishments. And a lot of times the people that are outside of us don't realize that that's we don't talk about that kind of stuff a lot. So the people that are around us don't know that that's a battle that we're fighting. And so, they're not aware, so they can't compliment us. They can't give us that praise, that acknowledgement that we desire. So it's important to be able to do that for ourselves, so that we don't get discouraged, so that we feel confident enough to keep going. Confidence in ourselves, confidence in our intuition, confidence in our journey. Sometimes that's very difficult to maintain. It's very easy to get discouraged and want to give up, especially if it's something that we're dealing with that the people around us aren't aware of. We want that acknowledgement. We want those compliments. We want that praise, but nobody knows about it. So they don't know to give it to us. So it's important to be able to give that to yourself. All right, now we'll pull from the Angels of Abundance Oracle. Yesterday, we got positivity, faith, and optimism, moonlighting, and windfall of abundance. Staying positive, having faith that you're making the right choices, and as long as you continue to make the right choices, abundance will come in all shapes and sizes. Remembering that abundance isn't always material, it isn't always financial, spiritual abundance, emotional abundance, embracing the abundance that's going back to the gratitude. Gratitude has a way of showing up in every day, and we should express gratitude every day. Just the fact that we woke up this morning is something to be grateful for. Not to mention all the other little things that so many of us fail to acknowledge. Everything from the sound of the birds outside singing to the cool temperatures this morning. There's so many little things that we have to be grateful for that, because it's our nature, because we're human, we just grow to expect. But in reality, no matter what you're talking about, it could be gone in the blink of an eye. I say it every time I do a video. All right, Angels of Abundance. Fell on the floor. Exercise to increase your energy and manifestation abilities. That's the first time we're seeing that card. Most definitely, always. We all get so consumed and distracted by just living life. We forget about or I shouldn't say we forget, but we fail to appreciate and acknowledge all the little things that we have to be grateful for. Quiet retreat on the bottom of the deck. We just had that the other day. Spending time in nature, taking time to spend time alone with yourself, to reconnect with your own energy. And then detox your friendships on the top of the deck. That goes back to what we talked about a few minutes ago. Letting go of people, places, and things that no longer serve you. Being aware of who you share your energy with. Listening to that gut that voice, your why can I not think of that right now? Your inner voice, your intuition, really listening to that when it comes to people that you surround yourself with. Because just that in itself, if you surround yourself with the wrong kind of people, it can have a devastating effect on your life really quick, really quick. All right. The key to manifesting quickly is to have very high energy levels. And the easiest way to increase them is through physical exercise. Choose a fun and meaningful activity so that you'll look forward to exercising and it becomes its own reward. So, a lot of people get discouraged when they hear the word exercise because they automatically think of, like going to the gym, lifting weights, running on a treadmill type thing. But just going outside and just being active, moving your body is a form of exercise. Especially, if you're the type of person that you work in an office, so you're sitting in a cubicle all day, just going to the park and walking around and moving your body can be a form of exercise. It doesn't have to be intense. It doesn't have to be boring. You can make it enjoyable. There's white doves and a bunny rabbit in this picture. So, if you have like a petting zoo or something in your area, if you enjoy spending time with animals, or if you like dogs, go to your local humane society or animal rescue. And I've seen it online a lot here lately where places have started, like, you come in, and I don't want to say that you rent a dog, but that's basically what it is. You come in and you pick a dog for the day and you take that dog out and you take them to the park or do activities with them. That's a good way to get yourself up and moving. Animals really have the ability to do that, to get us motivated to move our bodies. And also being around children helps with that as well. If you don't have your own children, you can, I don't know if they still do the big brother, big sister thing, or, maybe you have nieces and nephews or, cousins or whatever. Go borrow somebody's kids for the day and take them to the park and play. There's all kinds of different ways to, get out and get active. Or just simply go for a stroll in nature, talking about the quiet retreat. It's time to disconnect from the outer world so that you can discern and process your thoughts and feelings from your inner world. Create this quiet time for yourself, and you'll have more clarity about what to do next. I used to do that with my brother. My brother has a bunch of kids. And when I was a lot younger, and it was before I had my son. But the guy that I was with at the time, he couldn't have children, and we both wanted children. And so at that time, my brother had 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. And at that time in my brother's life, him and his wife at that time, they weren't really the best parents. They didn't really give the kids the attention that they needed. And so there were a lot of times where we'd just go borrow his kids for a couple days. We'd get them for the weekend and take them out and do stuff. And at that time in my life, we lived on 4.5 acres, and they would come over and they'd just go play in the woods. We'd walk around collecting sticks and looking at animals and, just talking. And children have the ability to bring out so many aspects of ourselves. Ooh, it's kind of making me tear up a little bit. Those are memories that I really miss. But, a lot of times being around children can bring out things about ourselves that we've lost along the way. Society really kind of forces us to grow up and put those things aside. So going back to the quiet retreat, detaching from the outside world, taking time to spend time in nature, taking time to reconnect with that inner child. A lot of us, we forget to do that. And I'm guilty as charged. I'm a very logical person. I was forced to grow up really early in life, and so it can be really hard for me to connect with that inner child, and just being around children helps bring that out. And it can have a positive effect on, your mental health as well. Just reminding, and that also helps us remember and see the things that, we forget to be grateful for. Kids just look at the world so differently. They really can inspire us on so many different levels. All right, detox your friendships. Your abundance flow is being affected by the people with whom you're spending time. So be discerning about your associations and relationships. Choose to be with people who are inspiring, generous, and supportive. It's important. Birds of a feather flock together. When you surround yourself with a certain type of person, that energy kind of rubs off on us after a while. So kind of going back to what I was talking about with the marriage and also with the relationship card, it very much lines up with that. Just being aware of who you share your energy with, who you connect with. Even something as simple as being aware of, whose hand are you shaking? Who are you hugging? Anytime there's physical connection like that, it's an energy exchange. So just be aware of that. Protect your energy, especially if you're in the process of healing your energy. So a lot of us, and for a long time in my life, I didn't look at it that way. But along my journey, I have learned that it's important. Going back to what we were talking about that inner voice, that gut feeling. When you get a feeling about somebody, even if you don't really, even if you can't comprehend, you don't understand where that feeling is coming from at the time, pull back. Take a quiet retreat. Practice the pause and be like, why is this person making me feel this way? And if you can't figure it out, keep your distance until you do figure it out. Ask for signs, ask for your angels, ancestors, spirit guides, and of course the Most High to help you figure that out, so that you're not giving your energy, your love, your attention to people, places, situations that don't deserve it or aren't going to value it. It's like an employer that isn't grateful for the effort that you put in. If you're constantly having to seek that approval, seek that acceptance, seeking gratitude from other people, that's not a place that you want to work. You don't want to, most people don't. Now, of course, I realize that sometimes, especially when it comes to jobs, sometimes we have to stay until we find something better. But when you're not appreciated, no matter what kind of situation it is, whether it's a job, a friend circle, a family unit, when you don't feel appreciated, it drains you, and you get to where you don't want to put your best foot forward. You don't want to give them your time, your energy, your love, your effort, because it's not appreciated. So that's when we need to be able to acknowledge that, accept that truth, and start pulling back and finding better places and directions to put that energy. Okay, now we'll pull from the Chakra Wisdom Oracle. Yesterday we got impasse, workaholic, and impatience. Patience is something that I know a lot of us struggle with. I struggle with being patient. It has been a struggle my whole life. But it's important not only to be patient with yourself, but be patient with whatever, people, places, situations that we're dealing with. All right. Going back to our communication affirmation with the throat chakra, and our daily mantra, I face the day knowing nothing bad can come from telling the truth. embracing your own truth, acknowledging the truth about the people, places, environments that we're participating in or interacting with. Don't get discouraged when you hit a barrier. Use that as an opportunity to sit back and, kind of pull back and analyze the situation. Sometimes those barriers are there for a reason to make us stop and reflect on, whatever that situation is. That we wouldn't ordinarily take the time to really analyze it. We would just jump right in. All right. Wow, that was quick. Enlightenment. The color yellow. Creation on the bottom of the deck. Rejection on the top of the deck. Double crown chakra, and then solar plexus energy. Anytime I see the rejection, I always think, rejection is God's protection. Sometimes, we need to listen to our intuition and reject a person, place, situation, environment. It's not always easy, but, the best thing to do is usually the hardest thing to do because it's testing us. We have to build our strength in that area. Most people don't enjoy having to walk away from things. 9 times out of 10, if you're in a situation or you're in somebody's company, it's because in some way or form you enjoy it, but which makes it hard to reject it. But being honest with yourself, going back to speaking the truth, being honest with yourself about the things that you need to reject, and don't take it personal. If you get rejected, accept it, keep going, believe in yourself. Going back to our angel numbers, 17, 938, 22, 44, and 77. No, it may not feel good. It may hurt, but surrender to that. Accept those feelings and then let it go and persevere through that. Have enough confidence in yourself, love yourself enough to be okay with having to walk away from certain people, places, or situations. All right. Enlightenment. Topaz. If I seek peace, I must embrace my fears. The legend. Topaz is a renowned spiritual teacher. People travel to hear his wisdom. He is journeying up a mountain to seek private counsel with the great servant when a young boy stops him. The boy asks if enlightenment is to be found in my own mind. And how do I get there? The moment before he disappears into the mist, Topaz replies, through your fears. Inspiration. At this time, your journey is more important than your destination. Remember, if you face your fear, you will grow stronger. Relief awaits. Personal inquiry. My thoughts always drive my choices. How can I use my thoughts to heal myself? Key ideas. Path to enlightenment. The reluctant sage. Taking time alone to connect. Trusting your intuition, needing solitude, time for reflection. Keywords: support, courage, and confidence. Very much lining up with everything we've already talked about this morning. Pushing through the fear, knowing that uncomfortable feeling is meant to teach us something. When we're afraid of something, when we're triggered by something, it's a learning opportunity. It helps us not only learn about ourselves, but about the world around us. Having the courage and the confidence to push through those fears, knowing that on the other side of those fears, we're going to be stronger. Nice. All right. Then we got creation. Wow, this is actually the last card of the deck. That's been happening a lot here lately, us getting the last cards. She Shaman. I will guide you to your muse, the legend. In a time before history, She Shaman walks the earth, bestowing artistic talents on a select few. One day she rests under a birch tree. Hey, says Birch, I want my muse too. Birch entertains She Shaman for a long time, singing and telling tales. She Shaman smiles. My great friend, you have had your art all along. She vows that from then on, she will give everyone their own gift. To this day, She Shaman has never left us. We see her inside every creative work. Inspiration. Your path is an artistic one. Express your love in a tangible art form. It is time to make decisions. Personal inquiry. Hold on, let me skip the commercial. Am I waiting for someone's permission to create my life? What do I need to see in order to claim my own gifts? Key ideas: opening to magic, lasting transformation, divine feminine, awakening creativity, finding your muse, owning your gifts. Key words: creativity, muse, and magic. That very much lines up with the angel number 77, awakening, and the angel number 2244, accepting or acceptance. You know, taking that quiet retreat, being honest with yourself about what your gifts are. You know, don't allow, that could very much line up with the detox your friendships. Don't surround yourself with people that kind of belittle you. You know, they don't acknowledge your gifts or don't encourage your gifts. You want to be around people that bring that out, not people that bury it. Can you hear the birds? Let me pause this. Just singing up a storm out there. All right, rejection. Oh, good, you can hear them? I'll leave the music off for a little while so we can listen to them. They're enjoying the cooler temperatures this morning too. Here lately, it's been like really humid and muggy during the mornings, but it really has been a pleasant morning. I've got the back door open. I've got my windows open. It's, you know, just a little bit of crisp chill in the air. So they're obviously enjoying it too. All right, rejection. Ivory tower. They won't use me. The legend. The artist is summoned for jury duty, but they won't use him. He doesn't fit their concept of what a juror should be. He paints pictures no one understands. He lives alone. They want somebody who will put himself in the other guy's place, but he will never do that. He doesn't get mixed up with anything or anyone. They honor his individuality when they invite him, yet when he appears, they reject it by not using him. Inspiration. You don't have to be on the inside track. Be true to yourself and you will not be unhappy. Rejection is spirit's protection. Personal inquiry. Am I working with or against my environment? What is the purpose of my present solitude? Key ideas. Others' approval, unsupportive environment, working alone, arrival of a teacher. Keywords: protection, exclusion, and development. That kind of goes back to what we had yesterday with our affirmation, everyone's a teacher. I'm a firm believer that we all have knowledge to share that can allow us to play that role as a teacher, but we all also play that role of a student. So embracing the role of being a teacher, embrace the opportunity to share your knowledge with other people. Very much lining up with the detox your friendships from the angels of abundance. Don't surround yourself with people that don't appreciate you. They don't acknowledge your worth. They don't embrace your gifts. Like I said before, when we surround ourselves with people like that, it causes us to not have belief in ourselves, to not have that confidence in ourselves. Going back to the angel number 17, self-belief. And also going back to the angel number 22, acceptance. Accepting that, sometimes we just have to let people go. Sometimes we just have to walk away from certain people, places, situations, because it's what's best for us. Doing what's best for you, not allowing other people's expectations, opinions to affect how we look at ourselves, or not letting them affect the decisions that we make, which that can be very difficult, especially if those people are like family or friends, or people that we really care about. It can be really hard to walk away from that. The way I try to tell myself is just love them from a distance. Even if you can't be a part of their lives, or you can't let them be a part of your life, you can still love them from a distance. All right, now we'll pull from the Wandering Heart Oracle. Yesterday, we got Restore, Redemption, and Silver Lining. In this Enlightenment card, we were talking about children, and that is they picture that as a child. Embracing your inner child. Being grateful for the children that are a part of our lives. Also sharing our knowledge and wisdom with the children that are a part of our lives. Sometimes, not sometimes, all the time, they need us or we need them just as much as they need us. Being around children can really help us look at the world from a different perspective. We get so serious and so distracted by our responsibilities and just the chaos of the world. Children are so innocent, and they just really, they glow from the inside. And when we spend time with them, that really can kind of rub off in a good way. All right, Wandering Heart Oracle. Heads up, we just got that card the other day. Look at that. We got 19 and 20. So going in order, maintaining order. Heads up, neglect. Alchemy is sticking out of the bottom. I am on the bottom of the deck. Bear fruit on the top of the deck. We've seen both of those recently. Autopilot. Blessings in disguise. Yeah, we've seen a lot of those lately. Oh, heads up. That references like snakes in the grass, being aware of people's intentions. That energy is coming up a lot today. Number 19. Heads up. Observe your surroundings. Mindfulness and cognizant. This card reminds you to stay present. Treasure your circumstances. Be intentional with how you navigate through spaces that aren't your sacred place. Do not get caught off guard. There's a chance someone nearby has plans to take advantage of you. When your head is down, you're an easy target. Be receptive to the energy everywhere you go. Scout the environment before entering. In this position, you are grounded. Your feet feel light. Your mind is clean. Your head is high. You trust that you are solid. Your burdens are passing. You've made your way over the hurdles that tried to distract you from advancement. Both the sun and the wind have messages for you, if only you agree to listen. So going back, very much connecting with the quiet retreat and detox your friendships. Also going back to what we already talked about, being aware of the people, places, and things that you not only surround yourself with, but the environments that you put yourself in. Being aware, being observant, paying attention to that inner voice, to that gut feeling. If something doesn't feel right, walk away. Accept that feeling, acknowledge that feeling, even though you may not understand why you're feeling it. You can process that later, but listen to that. Listen to that. Don't ignore it. Trust in your own truth. Trust your intuition. All right, and then we got neglect, number 20. I don't think we've ever gotten this one, but we may have. Don't allow bitterness to overcome you. Distracted and seclusion. Here you feel abandoned. You are doubtful of your significance. You've lost track of your everyday pursuits due to the funk you are in. It feels as if everyone's life is moving at a steady upward pace and you aren't being considered or included. It's time to make amends with your inner child. You remember her for who she is, and you apologize for not considering her feelings more often. You comprehend that every feeling has a root, and every root must be discovered for total wellness. You take the necessary steps to improve your overall health. How many times, we've been talking about the inner child a lot and the child energy in general. But, embracing that inner child, loving on that inner child, speaking your truth, going back to our grief affirmation, taking that deep dive to really understand, why we feel that way. And very, very much lining up with the rejection card. Remember that rejection is God's protection. Don't take it personally when somebody rejects you. Just see that as a sign that person isn't meant to be in your life. You're not meant to be in that environment. You're not meant to be part of that situation. Accept it. Keep going. Believe in yourself. Yeah. That's the strong energy out here today. Be aware. We got the relationship affirmation. We got the detox your friendships, the rejection, the neglect, the heads up. Pay attention. Listen. Look. So many of us get distracted by the outside world that we really don't take the time to be aware of where we're at and the type of people, places, and environments that we become a part of. And it's important to do that, especially if you're in a state of transition, making a lot of changes in your life. Sometimes we get so caught up, we get that tunnel vision to where we're just so focused that we're keeping our head down and just staying in our own lane. It's, sometimes sometimes we have to remember to look up, look around, don't get caught off guard. Don't let people take advantage of you in that vulnerable state. You know, when we're in the process of awakening, of loving on ourselves, of embracing our journey, of overcoming those barriers, you know, about strengthening our relationship with ourselves, gaining that enlightenment, a lot of times people see that as an opportunity to take advantage. All right, now we'll pull from the Animal Ally Birds deck. Yesterday, we got Puffin, Woodpecker, and Cardinal. So embracing change, embracing your truth, you know, taking that quiet time to really get centered, get focused, embracing your inner child, loving on your inner child, awakening to the fact that that needs to be done. You know, going back to our Namaste card, let it out, you know, breathe, meditate, quiet retreat, you know, spending time in nature. I realize for some people, you know, depending on where you live, I consider myself very blessed. I'm surrounded by nature. But if that's not something that, you know, is easy for you to access, you know, maybe go on YouTube, and when you take that quiet time, find some nature sounds on, or whatever streaming app that you use, you know, find some nature sounds. Sometimes that can really like help us just like release and relax when we're able to hear that, whether it's birds singing or crickets chirping or, you know, whatever it is. It really can help kind of flip that switch in our mind to help us relax. Or, you know, like the sound of a trickling, like a waterfall, or, you know, a babbling brook type energy. I'm grateful that I am where I'm at. You know, Tennessee is a beautiful state, which there's a lot of other states that have a lot of, you know, nature and wildlife still. But, you know, as the years pass, unfortunately, in a lot of areas, we're losing that because they're tearing it all down, building houses and complexes, and, you know, they're not really building shopping malls anymore, but, you know, you get what I'm saying. And it really, that makes me sad. It's, especially in my area, it's happening quicker than I would like. You know, we have people coming from all over the world, you know, California and New York, overseas, that are moving to this area because they love the nature and the hills and the mountains, you know, the birds and the bees and the trees. But because so many of them are moving here, we're losing a lot of that because they're building houses and condos and, you know, all that other jazz. So, you know, it's a double-sided sword, you know. All right. Animal allies, birds. Ooh, that's way too many. But willing. Duck, crow, I don't even know how to pronounce that, ostrich, and Eureka. And we just got that one the other day, and that name is actually the Spanish name for magpie. Because I looked it up, because I didn't know how to pronounce it. Knowledge is power. The more you know, the stronger we are. Hawk is what came out. And dove. I always relate dove with like spirit energy. The Most High. And then ostrich, it came back out on the top of the deck. All right. So hawk, dove, and ostrich. Double messenger energy there with hawk and dove. All right, Hawk superpowers. Noticing details, adapting to change, strength, grace, good aim, independence, and spiritual awareness. Hawk wisdom. Internal changes happen over time. It's never too late to begin to build new habits or strengthen weak areas. When Hawk appears, look at whatever is troubling you from both a high and low perspective. Turn over each rock in your psyche. What's there trying to get your attention? Hone in with your own sharp senses to get a more expansive view. Hawk wants you to know magic and synchronicities are right here, right now. Use all 6 senses to receive the signs trying to speak to you. They can appear from anywhere at any time, and only you can decipher what they might mean. Very much going, we already talked about listening to our 6th sense this morning. Thank you very much for being here. I was glad to see you as well. I hope you have a great day. Be safe. Stay positive. All right. So, very much acknowledging the synchronicities and going back to the, looking at things from both a high and a low perspective, just in general, looking at things, trying to break out of that box of looking at everything from a personal perspective and try to be able to look at it from an outsider's perspective, acknowledging your strengths and your weaknesses, being aware of that so that you can work on, strengthening yourself in the areas that you may be weak. And, one of those areas may be in your friendships and the relationships that you have. A lot of us, if we don't like being alone, if we're lonely, if we're sad, if we're depressed, sometimes we get in that state of mind where we'll just accept anybody's company. And that's a dangerous frame of mind to be in. It's better to be alone and be safe than to be in the company of somebody that's going to cause you harm. Either not even necessarily physical harm, emotional harm, spiritual harm, harming your confidence, just bringing you down in general. You're better off being alone than you are surrounding I speak from experience, which is why I spend so much time alone now. I would much rather be alone than be around somebody or people or be in a situation that's going to drag me down or, cause me to question myself in some way, shape, or form. Accept the fact that sometimes it's better to be alone. All right, then we got Dove. Dove superpowers. Peace, harmony, love, maternal instincts, comfort, gentleness, spirituality, renewal, and compassion. Dove wisdom. Creating a peaceful, nurturing, clutter-free environment is a great step towards prioritizing mental and emotional health and safety. Wow. Inspiration for change, calm, and peace can be found in many places, including the mind. When Dove appears, look for ways you can spread goodness in your community, your heart, and the world at large. Dove wants you to know this may be the right moment for a fresh start, but only you know that for sure. Have confidence in any little whispers you hear from inside your body, mind, and spirit. Wow. So listening to your intuition, taking that time to find that solitude, to prioritize your mental and emotional health. And when we do that ourselves and people outside of us see it, it can encourage them to do the same. Have the confidence. Going back to our angel number self-belief, number 17, have the confidence to do that. And then going back to our morning mantra, I face the day knowing nothing bad can come from telling the truth. Spreading goodness and being honest with everybody that you come in contact with. Being honest with yourself about, changes that need to be made, embracing that journey, walking in love, walking in truth with yourself. Even if you're not doing it with the people that are around you, doing it for yourself. All right, and then we got ostrich. Ostrich superpowers: authority, deflecting negative vibes, staying grounded, speediness, ability to carry heavy loads. Ostrich wisdom: take time to recharge your spirit and you'll have more energy to contribute to your highest good. Spending time in nature and away from the news cycle is a solid place to start. When ostrich appears, ramp up your self-care. Don't focus on what doesn't serve your highest good. Listen to inner alarm bells, however faint they may be, and take care to avoid things that set them off. Wow. I love it when it comes full circle like that and everything starts to connect. I love it. Ostrich wants you to know you are not alone and you are not responsible for holding up the whole world. You get to choose what and to whom you devote your precious energy. Detox your friendships. Accept that, even though it may not feel good, you may not want to do it. There are people, places, things, mindsets that we need to let go of so that we can accept ourselves as we are, have belief in ourselves, so that we can awaken to all the different possibilities in our lives. And so that we can be more in touch with our spiritual self, so that inner voice, that gut feeling gets stronger. The more we embrace that part of ourselves, the more we acknowledge it, the more we accept it, the more it awakens. But if we're constantly running from it, it's like it's out in the water drowning and we don't save it, and so we just let it drown it drowns out that noise, that voice. And that's a dangerous place to be in. When you can no longer hear your inner voice, your intuition, that's a dangerous place to be. So it's important to take that quiet time to disconnect from the outside world so that we can reconnect with our own inner voice, our own energy, so that we know when there's a snake in our grass, so that we know when there's some person, place, situation that we need to remove, so that we can create a safe place for us to be, so that we can trust ourselves. Even if you can't, obviously you don't want to surround yourself with people that you can't trust, but it's more important to be able to trust yourself. All right, now we'll pull from the Archangel Fire Oracle. Yesterday, we got Archangel Michael, number 23. Archangel Michael is a protector, a warrior in a way. Zuriel on the bottom of the deck as we're getting started. Okay, so just to review, communication is what we got with our throat chakra affirmation. I communicate openly and honestly to express my thoughts and feelings clearly. I share my inner knowledge freely with integrity and without fear, which directly connects to our morning mantra. I face the day knowing nothing bad can come from telling the truth. If you speak your truth and it disrupts or upsets the environment that you're in, the people that you're around, That is a clear sign that you need to walk away and let go of those people, because you should not be shamed or, put down or neglected or punished for speaking your truth. Angel numbers 17, 938, 2244, and 77. Awakening, acceptance, keep going, and self-belief. Enlightenment, creation, and rejection. So rejection is God's protection. Quiet retreat, detox your friendships, exercise to increase your energy and manifestation abilities. All right. Let it out. Breathe. Practice the pause. If you're feeling overwhelmed, practice the pause. Number 31, Metatron. 31 breaks down to a 4. He has a lot of nature around him as well. Pine cones, seashells, roses, flowers. All right, let's see what Metatron has to say. 31. Metatron is the archangel of the gold ray, representative of the crown chakra, the stellar gateway, which is 12 inches above the crown chakra. So that's like your auric field, your aura energy. Healing qualities, direct access to source, understanding our infinite nature, limitlessness, divine insight, enlightenment, and Christ-like. Crystal associations, gold, pyrite, citrine, golden topaz, and healer's gold. In the enlightenment card, we saw topaz, and that was citrine was actually our stone from yesterday. Essential oil, frankincense, and then star and constellation, Orion's belt. All right, Metatron, number 31, ancient wisdom. One of the only 2 angels who is said to have walked the earth as a human being, the other being Xandophon. Metatron's earthly name was Enoch. He is known as God's voice and as the divine mediator with humanity. He sits at the very top of the tree of life in the Kabbalistic tradition. He helps us to connect with ancient wisdom so we can tap into our true genius. If you ask him, he will activate your DNA, crown, and upper chakras. When you are ready, he will illuminate your soul's mission, so you may step on the ascension path and become the best version of yourself. Early in my journey, while attending a healing workshop, I had an incredible experience with Metatron. As I called on him, my crown chakra opened and a rush of pure love shot through me. A golden light coursed through my body like a sudden electric shock. I could feel sparks of energy all over, within, and around me. From the brilliant light emerged a massive golden angel. His feet were on earth, but his head was up amongst the stars. The remarkable thing about this experience was that it was entirely holographic in nature. I could see the angel from all angles, but it was also as though he had stepped into me and I was experiencing the entire universe from his perspective. He was strangely angular, as though his body was made up of sacred geometric shapes. My own body was shaking from the raw power that surged through my nervous system. I had never before met such an immense being. I decided to ask his name. "I am Metatron," came from a booming voice that seemed to echo out of the heavens. Metatron showed me a large, multifaceted golden symbol. His DM, darling, you're gonna fall. Quit. I lost my place. His geometric cube, which could be brought down through the energy field to elevate a person's vibration, cleanse, balance, and align their chakras, and provide deep healing and transformation. When I came around from the experience and opened my eyes, another healer who was assisting on the workshop had crossed the room of 50 people to deliver me a message. My darling, she said, I just saw that whole thing. The angels want me to tell you they have been waiting for you to work with them. They want you to write and teach about them. We looked down, and on the floor between our feet was a large white feather. I had not known it at the time, but I later learned that Metatron, as his image on the card reveals, is the angel of sacred geometry who governs the very building blocks of creation. His general message: you are crowned with the light of source because you are the divine incarnate. Walk upon the earth as an angel, and life shall conspire to lift you up. Wisdom is available to those who truly follow the integrity of their heart. You know, we are all divine beings in reality. If you are on an awakening healing journey, you're on that journey for a reason. All right, you share in the wisdom of Metatron when you realize we are all connected through the oneness of the Creator. All things, all beings have consciousness, even the rocks and the trees. So live your life from the perspective that all existence is part of you and is sacred. When you understand the principle of microcosm in the macrocosm, you will also come to understand that you are not just a bystander in your experience here on earth. You are a powerful angelic creature capable of mastering many great feats. That is why you have come to this planet at this time. You are one of the souls who have chosen to be here to assist in humanity's awakening and rebirth from fear to love. Walk softly upon the earth, knowing that she is an extension of you. You may wish to study sacred geometry, the secrets of alchemy, or hermetic principles to further awaken the wise one within. We did see the alchemy card with the Wandering Heart Oracle. We didn't actually read it, but we saw it. Knowing that it's important for us to embrace our own inner alchemy. You know, there is a universe existing within inside our body. If you learn anything about the human body and the system that's within and how complex it is, you know, it's just as complex as the planetary system, the stars. It's basically the same thing, just in a different chemical or combination of chemical processes. But awakening to your own gifts, taking the time to do that. Going back to the Angel of Abundance cards, quiet retreat, detox your friendships, exercise to increase your energy and manifestation abilities. You know, a lot of times when we exercise, it activates different chemical reactions within our brain. And sometimes, like for me, I don't necessarily go to the gym anymore, but when I did used to go to the gym, I would get all kinds of just like epiphanies and realizations while I was there. Like I love listening to music, and it got to the point when I was at the gym to where I no longer wanted to listen to music anymore. I would have my headphones in to kind of muffle the noise around me, but I wouldn't have music on. And it really helped me kind of break through some barriers. You'd be surprised if you can just break free from the outside world and really embrace that solitude and that quiet time, You'd be surprised at what you can learn about yourself and about the world around you. For sure. All right, let me get a drink and then we'll get into the... We've got 4 more to go and then we'll be done. My coffee is pretty much cold. I'm going to have to turn it into iced coffee. All right, now we'll pull from the Animal Spirit Oracle. Yesterday we got dolphin, lion, raccoon, and wolf. I don't know why that song just popped into my head. I guess because I saw the wolf card. Leader of the Pack. That's an old classic song. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. It's been a long time since I heard that song. Leader of the Pack.
Leader of the Pack.
That's a really good song. That's old school though. I remember used to play that in the car when we'd be on road trips.
Betty, is that Jimmy's radio? Gee, it must be great, right? Is he picking you up after school today? By the way, where's Peter? I met him at the candy store. Turn around and smile at me. You get the picture? Yes, we see. That's when I fell for the leader of the pack.
Be the leader on your own journey. That's kind of what I'm getting from that. I mean, in the song, she's talking about a guy, but being the leader of your own journey, you know, following your own path. That's a really good song. If you've never heard that song before, go check it out. It's an old school song. It's not very long, 2.5 minutes. I mean, obviously, if you don't really get into that kind of music, you may not enjoy it, but that kind of takes me back to my childhood a little bit. All right, Animal Spirit Oracle. Be the leader of your own journey. Walk your own path, even though people may not understand it. Earthworm. Tarantula on the bottom of the deck. Elephant on the top of the deck. Elephants are known for their wisdom. And with this earthworm card, you know when it rains really heavy and the worms will come out, and you know, I don't know why they do this, but they'll get on the concrete and then they don't get back in the dirt and they end up like shriveling up and dying on the concrete. The last time we got a heavy rain here that happened, there were several big earthworms, and I've never really understood that. It's like, you know, surely they know that they're shriveling up and dying. Why don't they just get back in the dirt? But I don't know. I'm not an earthworm. I don't know how they think. Being aware of nature's cycles. Being aware of, you know, the benefits of spending time in nature. All right. Earthworm. Obviously, that's earth energy. Shy, hesitant, reluctant to share inner vision. We have all felt the woes of the earthworm at some point along the way. The earthworm indicates a newbie working to establish confidence in a new field. Others around you may seem wise and experienced, but it's important to remember they once felt earthworm energy too. This card is a reminder not to be intimidated or lose hope. Mastery takes time, and you're on the right track. Besides, rumor has it, a beginner's mind offers the most valuable insights. When in balance, earnest, intelligent, and valuable. When out of balance, self-conscious and apprehensive. To bring into balance, speak up and risk embarrassment. So that very much lines up with a lot of what we've talked about already today. Speaking your truth. You know, don't be scared to start down a new path. You know, Going back to what we've already talked about, if you're at that place where you're having to walk away from certain people, places, environments, situations, don't be scared to start a new journey. You know, we learn a lot about ourselves and about the world around us when we go on that new journey, when we embrace that journey. And sometimes people, going back to the, friendships, sometimes, just walking away from people, places, and things that no longer serve us will put us onto a new path. Especially if it's like a work environment that you're having to walk away from. But don't be scared to do that. Embrace that journey. Get excited about it. You never know what mysteries lie ahead. You may actually find comfort on that new path. And we always learn about ourselves when we start a new journey. We learn something new about ourselves. Look at that tarantula at a crossroad, claiming life's purpose. The tarantula represents a moment when a great decision must be made. It involves prioritizing your life's deeper purpose or dharma. A habit or routine from the past is sidetracking you from your dream. Yet a voice inside keeps begging you to refocus your attention. In order to find true happiness, you must choose dharma. Until you do, satisfaction will be fleeting. The tarantula hovers, patient and calm, like an old friend that knows your inner soul. It already knows you'll choose wisely. When in balance, follows intuition. When out of balance, hesitates and over-intellectualizes. To bring into balance, daily journaling. So going back to our affirmation about listening to that inner voice, listening to your intuition, prioritizing your life's deeper purpose, prioritizing yourself, prioritizing your journey, awakening to the fact that, sometimes we have to let go of things that we don't want to, but it's in our best interest. Keep going. Maintain that self-confidence, maintain that self-belief, going back to our angel numbers. Keep going. Don't neglect, don't ignore the signs, the synchronicities, the messages that you're receiving. No matter how those messages are coming to you, whether it's number synchronicities, whether, it's a person that's coming into your life offering some kind of advice or direction or even an opportunity. Don't ignore those when they present themselves. Wow. I love it when it all comes full circle like that. All right, and then we have elephant. Elephants are known for their wisdom, but they're also known for maintaining their family units. When elephants are out in the wild, they stay with their tribe, quote unquote. They also mourn the loss of when one of them dies, they actually grieve. It's almost like a ceremony of sorts that happens with elephants. I have never noticed that before. In this picture, notice how one tusk is full and one tusk is broken. Oh, so like you could interpret that in a lot of different ways. Trauma, bad experiences, pain, hurt, grief. But pushing through, feeling broken, a lot of times, there it is. A lot of times we feel broken because of the things that we've experienced, the things that we've gone through, the pain, the heartbreak, the discomfort, the judgment, we feel broken, but we're not broken. It's just a learning experience. A lot of times when we feel that way, it's because of a deeper rooted issue, a trauma that we've experienced that, we need to acknowledge, be honest with ourselves enough to see that and acknowledge it for what it is and take the time and make it a priority to heal whatever that hurt is. Wow, I've never noticed that before. All right, unstoppable, auspicious, and wise. The elephant is arguably the most auspicious figure in the deck. Like Ganesh, the elephant represents immense wisdom as well as good fortune. It is said that the great elephant is the destroyer of obstacles. So if this card appears when you feel stuck, rest assured the path will soon become clear. To add to the mystery, the elephant is also known to create obstacles in order to steer us in the right direction. Trust this gentle, noble creature. It illuminates the way with a light of self-knowledge. Wow. When in balance, one-pointed focus, generous and loving. When out of balance, misunderstands fate. To bring into balance, trust. So trust yourself. Trust your intuition. We've gotten that message a lot today. In our affirmations, in our oracles, trust your intuition. See and acknowledge those signs and synchronicities when they appear. Embrace the journey, embrace the newness. Yes, it may be hard to walk away from people, places, and things that no longer serve us because we get comfortable in those environments. Embracing the change, having the courage to do that. Beautiful. I can't believe I've never noticed that before, that tusk is broken. All right. Now we'll pull from the herbal astrology deck. Actually, let's get our gem or mineral for the day. Yesterday, we got citrine, prosperity, confidence, and ambition. Having confidence in yourself, confidence in the path, being ambitious about what lies ahead, knowing that as long as you stay true to yourself and listen to your intuition, abundance will flow. Remembering that abundance comes in all forms. Abundance isn't always material things or financial things. You have spiritual abundance, emotional abundance. Abundance can come to you in the form of love from the people around you. Embracing that, being grateful for that when it is there. Awakening to the fact that abundance comes in all forms. So often when people hear abundance, they think about money, and that's not always the case. All right. Explore the universe of gems and minerals. Amethyst. Beautiful stone. Purple is my favorite color. Gotta love amethyst. Vitality, balance, and sobriety. Ancient Egyptians discovered mines full of amethyst, sparking a craze for this crystal in Egypt's Middle Kingdom era. I actually have some amethyst right here. There's the amethyst in its raw form. It has a lot. Hi there, Iron Man. Happy Wednesday. I hope you're having a positive, productive day so far today. Good to see you. All right, so amethyst. They use amethyst to make like a lot of jewelry. Back in the day, they even used to use it with their walking sticks, or, back then they called it a staff. Amethyst carries a lot of positive energy with it. Plus, it's a beautiful stone. But I guess I am a little prejudiced because purple is my favorite color. So, all right, now we'll get herbal astrology. Yesterday, we actually got two, Teacher and the Beloved, number 33 and number 11. I really like this deck. It's helped me learn a lot about different herbs. Thank you very much. Thanks for stopping by. Sending you love and healing energy as well. All right. Herbal Astrology Oracle. All right. That's way too many that just fell out, but we'll acknowledge them. Wealth, metamorphosis, purity, higher consciousness, and teacher. We just put that one back in. We all have opportunities throughout our lives to be a teacher, sharing our knowledge with the people around us, not being afraid to speak that truth. Sometimes that's really what people need. Grace, number 29. I have no idea how to pronounce that plant, but we will find out. There's swans in this picture. There's a swan and a crane. She's pouring water from one cup to the other. All right, let's learn how to pronounce this. Another educational moment for the day. We get that with our state cards, but very often we do get that with these cards as well. I love learning about the different plants and herbs. Actually, one of the ones that we got yesterday, I actually this morning went on and put it in my cart on Amazon. Hold on. Yeah, that looks exactly like that picture. 5 flavor berry. Magnolia vines. Okay. I didn't put in pronunciation. Sorry, I got distracted.
Scasandra.
Scasandra. It's a magnolia vine. Scasandra. Also known as 5 flavor fruit, Chinese magnolia vine. All right, let's read about it. Scasandra, number 29. Grace. Give yourself grace. Offering grace to the people that are around you. All right. Inner beauty, inspirations, euphoria, visions, supernatural powers, and synergy. Astrological ruler, Jupiter and Venus. In traditional Chinese medicine, flavors are seen as energetic symbols within a plant, demonstrating its distinct healing traits. Scasandra berry contains all 5 flavors: sweet, bitter, salty, sour, and pungent, directly signaling its all-encompassing and highly medicinal nature. I may be having to give me some of this too. And earning it the name 5 flavored berry. Perfectly yin-yang balanced, Scasandra nurtures all 5 elements: wood, fire, earth, metal, and water, and enters all 12 energy channels or meridians of the human body. Isn't that crazy? We were just talking about how the body is a universe in itself. As the symbol of longevity and beauty, even suggesting the ability to attain immortality, Scasandra is pictured often in ancient Chinese art, considered a panacea. It increases energy, prolongs life without aging, benefits the mind, supports the eyes, acts as an anti-inflammatory, helps against radiation, protects the nervous system, protects from nervous system toxicity, cleanses heavy metal toxicity, supports adrenal function, supports the lungs, benefits sexual function, balances hormones, and protects the skin. Scasandra is ruled by Jupiter, and it has an all-encompassing, longevity enhancing, and expansive medicinal nature. Oh my gosh, you know what I just realized? This is on page 111 in the book as well. So there's a number synchronicity in itself. Okay, the way it encompasses all 5 elements, all 12 energetic channels, and all flavors provides longevity to every organ system and harmonizes all polarities as a signature, also a signature of Venus. The guidance, like the Temperance card in the tarot, the goddess holds a cup of water representing the subconscious as she crosses over a stream of water representing the conscious mind. Scasandra's medicine teaches us about the high alchemy of beauty, grace, and the harmony of dualities. Like the medicine of the swan, it is here today to remind you of the grace within balance, patience, and moderation. You are being invited to allow life force to flow through you without force or resistance. Follow your visions and pay close attention to the subtle language in your body and surroundings. If you feel out of orbit or aloof, make time to ground. Grounding will only facilitate your development to a higher consciousness. Wow. Wow. So, quiet retreat, trusting your intuition, having faith in yourself, listening to that inner voice. You know, maybe, that card number 29, which also breaks down to 11, it was on page 111 in the book. So 111 is, as an angel number, is like a number that tells you like you're on the right track, you're going the right way. Keep going. Angel number 938, we got that today. Keep going. 2244, acceptance. Number 17, self-belief. Believe in yourself. Listen to your intuition. If you need to communicate some truth, do that. Even though that truth may hurt, embrace it, learn from it, and move on. Remembering that rejection is God's protection, or remembering that, you know, for your own good, there may be some things that you need to reject. Going back to our angels of abundance, detoxing friendships. You know, maybe there's some friendships we need to walk away from. Maybe there's some old thought patterns that we need to let go of. Maybe there's an old mindset that we need to break free from. Pushing through those barriers, going back to the Celestial Insights barrier maze, pushing through those barriers, creating and embracing a new path. Knowing that our mental, our spiritual, our physical, our emotional health, it's all connected. You know, it talks about the 5 elements. You know, knowing that that's all connected. Then going back to our namaste and the angels of abundance, let it out. Quiet retreat. It talks about getting grounded, spending time outside doing breath work, disconnecting from the world, disconnecting from the distractions, disconnecting from people that distract you from your path, distract you from whatever you're working on. You know, if you have goals or, you know, things that you're working on, be going back to the heads up from the Wandering Heart Oracle, you know, be aware of the effect that people and environments have on you? Are they encouraging or are they distracting? Don't allow people, places, situations, and even your own beliefs to discourage you. Have faith in yourself. Self-belief, our angel number 17, and then angel number 938. Keep going. Push through. When you have those moments when you get discouraged, or you feel like giving up because you've hit a barrier, see that barrier as a learning opportunity. It's come up several times today, looking at things from a different perspective. See that barrier, that hurdle, as an opportunity to not only learn something about yourself, but maybe even develop a different skill. Sometimes being true to ourselves, listening to our intuition, being honest with ourselves, that's not always easy, especially if that's not something that you're used to doing. So, embrace those opportunities. And going back to the admiration, be proud of yourself when you overcome those moments of discouragement. Even though there may not be somebody else around you that can do that, work on being able to do that for yourself. Work on being able to pat yourself on the back. Not always seeking that external approval, knowing that as long as you approve, as long as it feels right to you, as long as you're listening to your intuition, having faith in yourself and embracing the journey, that's all that matters. Don't let people discourage you from that. All right, now we'll pull from the Mary Magdalene Oracle and we'll be done for the day. We're at 2:07:43 on the timer when I looked. It is 9:13 real time. I hope everybody has a positive and productive day. Love yourself a little bit extra today. Get that quiet time when at all possible. Listen to your voice. We got the heads up. That card came up last week as well, so that it's come out twice. Also, we got detox your friendships and listen to your intuition. So if you get that feeling, listen to it, no matter what it's about. And of course, as always, be grateful. We got the gratitude card out here. Speak your truth, whether you're speaking it to yourself or to people around you. Don't be afraid to speak your truth. Don't be afraid to speak someone else's truth to them. Sometimes we need, going back to the throat chakra, the communication, do it in a kind, loving way. But, sometimes we as humans, as individuals, we need somebody else to come in and call us out. We can be that for other people. You don't have to be mean about it, but sometimes because we're on the outside of a situation, we can see things from a different perspective, and we can maybe shine some light on a situation and help somebody break free from whatever they're struggling with, or at least give them some guidance and help them get back on track. Okay, Magdalene Oracle. Also, don't ignore the signs and synchronicities that you see around you, whether it's number messages, whether it's signs from nature. Be aware of those things. Something that I had, I didn't really have to learn. It really just came natural to me. But, when you see an animal, especially if you live in an area where you're not really surrounded by nature, squirrels and birds and stuff like that, if you live in nature, that's a pretty common occurrence. But if you see an animal or a creature that isn't something that you see on a regular basis, look it up. Obviously, if you're watching this video, you have access to the internet. Google it. What's the spiritual meaning of, a praying mantis? That was something, praying mantises, I haven't seen one in a long time, but there was a time in my life where I saw multiple, like back to back, and that's not common. That's not an animal, a creature that you see on a regular basis. So, especially if it's something that you keep seeing it over and over again, whether it's a ladybug or a hawk or, whatever it is, if it's, look it up. There may be a hidden message in that. All right, two came out. The breath and sacred worth. The breath is what was on top, so that's what we're going to read. But I will acknowledge the sacred worth. I am worthy of love. Yes, you are. We all are. Self-love, love from the divine, love from the people that surround us. Kind of going back to the detox your friendships. If you're around people that aren't showing you love, walk away. Yeah, it might be hard. It might hurt. It might be uncomfortable, but it's okay to walk away. It's for your own good. All right. And then the breath. I reclaim my soul. Let's see. This doesn't have a number on it either. All right. The breath. My neck is starting to hurt. Page 26. Let me write that on here real quick. All right. I reclaim my soul. The Gospel of Philip reminds us that the breath animates the flesh. We come to life with that first inhale when we've emerged from our mother's body. And we leave this body with an exhale, and it's our time for what's next. The breath is so simple that it's perhaps the easiest aspect of being alive to take for granted. What did we talk about at the very beginning? Being grateful. Just waking up, breathing, being alive is something to be grateful for. And we take it for granted every day. Not everybody woke up this morning. Be grateful that you woke up, that you've got another chance to do good and do better. And yet the breath has the power and potential to bring us back to life, into this moment happening right now, just as it did when we were first born. When we are trapped in one of the 7 powers of the ego, all we need to do is become aware of our breathing. Wow. We got the card the other day with our Namaste deck about conscious breath. If we can bring presence into the pain through an intentional breath, we can reclaim and remember our power to shift everything that comes next. We can take one intentional breath to return to the body and drop into the heart. We can take a second intentional breath to connect to the presence of love that rests within us. And then we can take a third intentional breath and surface, drenched now with that presence of love to guide us. 3 intentional breaths can change everything. Don't take my word for it. Practice those 3 breaths, especially when you don't want to, especially when someone's yelling at you, or when you're the one yelling, when you're furious, or when you're more anxious than you've ever been, and when you're about to react in hurtful ways to someone who is hurting you. Just before reacting, just before repeating a pattern of hurting and being hurt, stop. Take 3 breaths and return to the heart. Reclaim your soul. Then open your eyes, more anchored to how love might lead you. To kiss in Hebrew means to breathe together, to share the same breath or spirit. The Gospel of Philip reveals that Christ loved Mary more than all the disciples. Quote, he often kissed her on the mouth, end quote. It is through the breath that we can experience a new embrace, so that what comes next isn't from the ego alone. It's also from the heart of who we are. It's straight from the soul. The soul voice meditation. Take 3 intentional breaths right now to reclaim your soul. And that goes back to, I talk about it often, practicing the pause, no matter what's happening. Whether you're in an uncomfortable situation, you're emotional, you're angry, you're sad, you're frustrated, somebody's coming at you and throwing all kinds of bombs your way. Take that quiet retreat, pull back for a few minutes, and just practice the pause. Big deep breath in, big deep breath out. And you don't have to limit it to 3. Do it as long as you need to. Going back to our namaste card, breathe in everything good and breathe out everything negative. With every breath out, breathe out something unnecessary. Negative thoughts, emotions, or memories. Whatever is weighing you down, let it out through your breath. Do this for 8 minutes. I usually say do it for 5, but do it however long you can. Breathing in general calms the body down and relaxes the mind. Intentionally letting go of negativity with every breath out will allow you to feel lighter and even more powerful. Embrace your breath. Be grateful for the fact that we're able to breathe. There are people in this world that cannot breathe without a machine. Be grateful for that ability. Use it as a healing tool. Practice the pause. Just breathe. Even if you can't do anything else in that moment, retreat to yourself internally and just breathe. Focus on breathing. Let all the other stuff just pass you by. And you'd be surprised at how fast that can redirect you. It can ground you in that moment, which it can be hard to do if somebody outside of you is either projecting something onto you or attacking you, like it says in the message, yelling at you. I've experienced it, so I know there are people in this world that will literally chase you down because they want you to fight with them. They want you to argue with them. I know how scary those situations can be. I know how uncomfortable it can be, and I know how hard it can be to get away from it, especially, say you don't have a car, so you can't just get in your car and go, or, maybe you're at work, so you can't just leave, but do whatever you can. If you find yourself in that situation, I know how much that hurts. It's kind of making me choke up a little bit just talking about it. I know how much it hurts to be in that situation to where you just want to leave. I just want to get away from you. Whatever is happening, please just do your best. Do whatever you can to get yourself in a safe place, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And as soon as you're able to get yourself out of that situation, just breathe. Cry it out, breathe it out, do whatever you have to do to release that negative energy, because when we carry it with us, it can make us bitter and unhappy, and it can hold us back from what our true path is supposed to be. I didn't mean to get all emotional with that, but I know what that feels like. And I feel sorry for people that are still in that place in their life. Whether it's an abusive relationship, whether it's, toxic work environment, toxic family environment, whatever it is, I know it can be very difficult, and it can leave you feeling stuck. So, maybe those are some friendships or situations that we need to detox from. We got detox your friendships. So, if there's a friendship or a relationship or an environment that regularly puts you in that situation, try to get away from that if you can. Reach out for help if you have to. Pray about it. Explore all avenues of rescue, of retreat. All right, a pretty deep message out here today. Remember to trust your intuition, listen to that inner voice, speak your truth, even if it upsets people, speak it. Even if it's not what you want to hear, speak it. Be honest with yourself about people, places, ways of thinking. Be honest with yourself and stay aware. Going back to the heads up, be aware of the energy that you pick up from people, places, and things. Guard your own energy. Protect your truth. Protect yourself. Keep going. Angel numbers again: 17, 938, 2244, and 77. And we also saw 111 in our cards in our read. So, pay attention to those synchronicities, those messages from your angels, ancestors, spirit guides, higher self, and the Most High. Seek that balance, seek sobriety, going back to our amethyst: vitality, balance, and sobriety. If you're dealing with addiction in some way, shape, or form, no matter what kind of addiction that is, don't give up. Keep going. Self-belief, going back to our angel numbers, you can do it. Addiction is only a barrier. It's not a destination. You can overcome it. And it's not, also remember the fact that it's not just drugs that people get addicted to. You may be addicted to shopping. You may be codependent, which is a form of addiction. When you're codependent, you're addicted to people, not chemicals. Being honest, going back to speaking your truth, being honest with yourself about maybe things like that, just finding balance. That you can get too much of a good thing. It's not just bad things that people get addicted to. They're finding balance in all areas of your life will restore your vitality. Vitality, going back to our Angels of Abundance card: exercise to increase your energy and manifestation abilities. Consuming healthy things, replacing something negative with something positive, embracing that change, knowing that it will restore not only your physical health, but your mental and spiritual health, your emotional health. All right, I'm going to leave it there. As always, be grateful for what you have, the big, the small, and the blessings that are yet to come. Because as we all know, it could all be gone in the blink of an eye. So be grateful. And as always, if you see a need out there today, tomorrow, next week, if there's any possible way that you can fill that need, please do so. You may not only better their day, but you could possibly change their life. And you never know the impact it could have on yours. As always, be blessed, find peace, and I'll see you next time.